Every year we see a star athlete kind of complain about his situation a little bit. We just saw it last night or a couple nights ago with Derrick Rose and his manager/brother making this exact same statement of how Derrick Rose doesn't have enough around him to win a championship. And some of us in the sports world look at that as kind of being weak, looking like you need some help. You can't do it unless you have someone else around you. But one person very near and dear to our hearts here in Wilmington, Michael Jordan. Could he have done it without Scottie Pippen? Could he have done it without Phil Jackson? Kind of takes a team to win these team sports, and a guy who's with us today to drive that theme home. He's got a new book out that talks about those exact themes. Dr. Bruce Piasecki. Dr. Bruce, a New York Times bestseller with the book Doing More with Less, has a sequel out right now, Doing More with Team, available on Amazon.com, among other places. Dr. Bruce, talk about the team values that always helps in sports, but you've kind of brought the sports style theme with Michael Jordan's personal experiences and some others, and how you've applied that to the business world, such as like Toyota, among other Fortune 500s. How have you applied that team sports kind of aspect to the world of business?
Ben, a great question, and just to start with a joke, the danger of sounding like a Dr. Bruce is it almost sounds like Dr. Ruth. I want to be known as a guy who spent 40 years helping teams become more competitive, but in a fair way. So, for example, I've worked with the Warren Buffett Company, and in this new book, I talk about the teams down there in Dalton, Georgia, that make the world's most reliable flooring and carpet. I also now working for companies like Canada's largest company, Suncor Energy, which through teamwork has grown from $13 billion to $43 billion. So I started out, Ben, as an athlete. And, you know, I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. No one in my family went to college. But thank God, because I could dribble a basketball and shoot free throws, 4 years of varsity, 92%, I made it to college, right? And so I'm forever thankful that through teams we learn how to suspend our individual constraints and our individual time clocks and kind of flip over the hourglass of our short lives into a state of play that luckily has social value. So I'm the type of athlete that tries to forgive the temptations of the dark side, like a Lance Armstrong, and instead celebrate what enables fair competition. And I boil it down, Ben, to three things I saw in Michael Jordan every freaking game he played. And so now that he's 50, it's worth celebrating that. First of all, he had what I call in the book team coherence. It wasn't just him seeing eye to eye with Phil Jackson, his coach, but it also went up to the owners, and it also went up to the crowd. He could see, you can picture that smile of Michael Jordan's extending with coherence to them and also to the great entities that endorsed him, like Gatorade or Nike or McDonald's. But then you could also see team coherence in the other direction, where he knew that even if the ball bounced off of Scottie Pippen's knee, he knew the capacities of Pippen would come back, or if Rodman got the key rebound or not. He had coherence, and I talk in this book about coherence is something you see and you respect. So in many ways, Ben, he had the respect of his team players. He also had the reputation of being a competitor, but a fair competitor. He knew how to lose. He knew how to win. In such contrast to Lance Armstrong today, where you don't see the coherence with his team players, you instead seeing him bullying them into alignment with him. You do not see the coherence with Radio Shack or with the U.S. Postal Service. As the record comes out, you see instead a totally different approach to team coherence. The other thing that Jordan had that I really, really celebrate is a sense of higher purpose, the ability to pass, the ability to do that double fadeaway jumper, knowing that Rodman might be there, relying on Rodman to get the rebound. So I call that team integrity. And these are not abstract concepts, Ben. These are things that made Jordan a brand with a major hang time. You know, he was the superstar that was everywhere that made it past the sports landscape. And so team integrity is the ability that a captain has to see the tendencies and the shortcomings and the dark side and the competitive spirit in the teammates. So the genius of being a captain is the ability to get beyond yourself and the ego of the self and actually know how to make the whole team pulse. Would you agree, Ben, that you think Jordan had that feature of team integrity and team coherence to him?
We talked about it about 2 weeks ago where the New York Knicks, Carmelo Anthony, and kind of the team surrounding him, at times, especially last year, when his teammates would get the ball, it'd be in a pressure situation, probably the first time that guy had ever touched the ball because it's been in Carmelo's hands the whole game. So when he comes around to get the ball, he's unexpected, unready for the situation, opposite of what Jordan did through his whole career, where he trusted people like Paxton, Kerr, guys that aren't big superstars, but they get play early in the game. They are part of that team. They know their role, and they're ready when their chance actually comes their way. So I think
exactly. He readied them through keeping them an integral part and by making sense to the whole thing. You know what I mean? I'm totally with you. And this book kind of celebrates that. It actually, one of the ways I do it, Ben, is I talk about how to be forever young is no fun. That what Jordan played was a mature game. He wasn't a baby face. He wasn't a sourpuss. He wasn't anything but pure team play. And he shared shoulder strength with his team. And his teams had incredible diversity and depth and range and talent. So he wasn't trying to make them all himself, or he wasn't trying to belittle them. And so in a world of 7 billion souls, where there's a lot of people competing for court space, I see him as a very good example of what the military, because my new book, Doing More with Teams, looks at military teams like Navy SEALs and Special Ops. It looks at corporate teams like the Warren Buffett teams, and it also looks at the great sports teams from World War II, where there was a team called Dynamo that defeated the Nazi I come from Eastern Europe, and so it was originally an Eastern Europe story, to I talk about the Boston Celtics, to I talk about Jordan. And the key concept that a friend in the military created is called shared actionable understanding. And what Jordan as a captain achieved is, with remarkable regularity and through extensive training and team building, there was a shared actionable understanding. It wasn't individual agendas. It wasn't conflicted personalities. It was, you start the same game even if you lost yesterday, with these arts of shared actionable understanding.
We're talking with Dr. Bruce Piasecki, the author of Doing More with Teams. Doctor, talk about the collaboration of a team and how that can kind of inspire innovation, where you basically couldn't got there by yourself unless you have new ideas flowing. Even in a sports setting, you get a lot of information from your teammates. Talk about collaboration and how that can, I guess, bring you to another level, bring you to something that you never thought you could do that was possible.
Absolutely. I started my corporation now 31 years ago. So when I work for giants like Toyota or Shaw Industries, the Buffett firm, or now for firms like Hess, what I look for in a team is 3 R's, and I just try and sometimes, make things simple again. So the first R is respect. You don't diss your teammates. You don't even diss the opponents. That respect is this tangible thing like a transaction. And you don't want to do the transaction in such a way that you might be sued or you might become a subject of inquiry, right? Mm-hmm. The second thing is relationships. A team shows that no individual is a mansion unto themselves, that the court of public opinion and the court of interest is really determined by relationships, how you relate to the ref, how you relate to the opponent. And finally, all of this boils down also to revenue. And so well-built teams, to answer your question, well-built teams are all about communication, cooperation, and relationships.
How much does revenue come into play on teams? We see it all the time with pro sports, sometimes in college sports, sometimes even in high school sports. It's a different kind of profit that you get, maybe more publicity, maybe a bigger scholarship. In pro sports, definitely more money. How much does money and publicity and kind of outside forces that lift one person up on the team and not the rest of the players, how much does that dynamic come into play on a team?
Great question, and I feel that the great players, the true players, are about social capital. They will elevate their teammates' performance, and they will elevate the crowd and the franchise, right? So my book, Doing More with Teams, The New Way of Winning, is about how to readjust your gaze from individualistic greed to group good. And not just group good in terms of victory, but the ability to play again better the next time. And my book is also trying to evolve the reader from a celebration of youth for youth's sake to a kind of matured and seasoned sense of shared social value. So just let's think for a minute about how that translates to revenue and your question. In the end, Michael Jordan as a player had incredible hang time. That's why he could do the double pump fadeaway, right? Mm-hmm. But as a brand, he even has a more major hang time, right? And I think the reason we love him, the reason we admire him, is we realize that to make our own lives meaningful, we have to have hang time. We have to have major hang time. We have to have lasting relationships with our accountants. We have to have lasting relationships with our publicists, our publishers, our friends. We have to have hang time based on exchange and respect, not just based on self-aggrandizement. So my book, some of the people who've been reviewing it, thinking about it, say it's a book about an approach to competition in life, not just sports.
The book is Doing More with Teams, The New Way of Winning. People in the military, we got a lot down here in the Southeast. A good book for you if you're part of any kind of team, as a lot of people who are listening to this show probably are. And also, if you're in business, definitely a good book for you as well. Dr. Bruce Piasecki, thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. We'll see you.